Hi, welcome to Detours Understanding Acquired Brain Injury. And today I want to talk to you about pragmatics and about abstract thinking in relation to traumatic brain injury, acquired brain injury in general, and some of the studies and what they show. It's important that we discuss these things because we do think in language, and a number of new studies point out some important things. One of the things that we need to keep in mind is that people with traumatic brain injuries, and this will be directed more towards families, this little video here, because it's important that families understand some of the effects of traumatic brain injury and how it affects linguistic and paralinguistic usage. Paralinguistics being things associated with language. In relation to when you're communicating with a survivor. And those of us who are survivors wondering, hey, what's going on? Why am I having problems with these things? And I also want to talk about abstract thinking and gist thinking. Now, we'll get into explaining what gist thinking is later. But let's get into paralinguistics and linguistics and pragmatics. Pragmatics deals with the application of language as far as like understanding things like irony, jokes, sarcasm, implicit meaning, things that we may not quite get unless we have familiarity within culture and social relationships and a lot of that kind of stuff. And yet, failure to comprehend this can ruin relationships, can affect job performance, can affect life in general. So we'll talk about how this all works. A lot of people with traumatic brain injury, research has shown, regardless of how severe your brain injury is, acquired brain injury too. But the studies are a little different with different types of acquired brain injury. Most studies, as is usual, are done on people who have traumatic brain injury because the populations are larger. But evidence shows that damage to specific areas of the brain, regardless of how it is caused, whether it's by aneurysm or by trauma or by hypoxic insult, by inflammation, regardless of how, the effects will be the same. And neuropsychological studies will show that the effects are still the same. So you could take it as being likely to have the same effects. All right. So as far as like double meanings, double entendre, some kind of joke with a twist ending or use of ironic phrasing, any kind of sarcasm is missed by the majority of people with traumatic brain injury. And so they may take quite literally what you say. And so as family members, it is important to consider that they probably won't understand if you're trying to either mock them or trying to deliver a point through the use of reverse or twist logic or double meaning or reverse psychology or something like that. Not going to work. Just say what you mean. Many times it leads to aggression. Studies show that people with brain injury, when they think, when they get confused, when they are stuck with something that doesn't make sense to them, will simply resort to aggression, yelling, get into a fight, verbally aggressive, because it doesn't make sense to them. Just spell out what you need. As a family member, please, it's like, just say what you're thinking. It's variable, too. In some cases, how much is understood in the abstract like this, in pragmatics, depends also on neurofatigue and memory performance at that time. It fluctuates. So some days somebody may be much clearer than other days. If they're tired, they're not going to get it. But if they're on peak, I discussed about this in the fatigue video, chances are much higher that they'll pick you up. So it depends. I mean, for myself, same thing. Sometimes I'll pick up every joke and every whatever Stacy's saying, and it depends on the environment. If we're out on the road and she's saying like, great driving, pal, I know exactly what she's talking about, the guy in front of me not, paying attention or whatever. But if I'm tired and I'm sleepy and My wife asked me, "Hey, are you sleepy there?" I say, "Yeah, I'm tired." Of course, I know she's, trying to, but it's like I don't know that. And so I'll say, "Yeah, I'm tired." Duh. But, for me, I'm like, I'm missing the point. And it's like, but I don't know at the time. And I will literally take it straight. And I'm frustrated with myself because on a good moment, I know. And on a bad moment, I don't. And that's how it is for most people with traumatic brain injury. It's very variable. And so, to families, I stress, please just spell it out. Especially if your survivor, if the person you're helping or whatever is tired, if they're not focused, if they're having problems focusing, lay it out, and then they'll understand it. Now, if they know you're kidding, if they know it's an environment where we're kidding, then that's fine. Then we'll pick it up, and the research supports that too. As far as the variability is concerned, but it is important. It is important to know, and you'll get used to this as time progresses. Also, the other thing is just reasoning, and this is related to it. The dorsolateral aspect of the frontal lobe, left side typically, the worse someone's executive functioning is, the harder time they have with what generally be considered abstract reasoning. That is to be able to think about something's deeper meaning, to literally consider the gist of what is being spoken of, the main idea, and to filter out all extraneous details. And studies show that people whose GCS scores were in the moderate to severe range tend to have problems pulling the main idea, not only out of written subjects, but out of what is told to them. They get overwhelmed with all the superfluous details, and then they are unable to make sense of anything. They'll just, whatever details their working memory can hold. And oftentimes they miss the point. The gist is missed. And so this is a cause of a lot of social and occupational and emotional problems and problems in relationships. You missed the whole point of the story. And neuropsychological evidence, again, supports that people with brain injury, even people with mild traumatic brain injury, may have some problems with just reasoning. And so the best way to deal with this, again, kind of like dealing with pragmatics, getting to the point, cutting out things that are not necessary, going right to the point. It's not, and what's important is not to be insulting about it, too, is to spell out, like, just say, this is what I meant. I'm sorry, it's like, I need this, or is this okay? What, just get to the point. Again, especially if somebody with brain injuries, if they're tired, if they're distracted, if they're having problems focusing, cut out the extraneous material. One of the ways to practice is to look at magazines, if you can find, printouts from the internet, whatever, and work for yourself, if you're a survivor, and try to find the main idea, line out things that are extraneous and work on it. And that would help improve some of the just reasoning. There are also school type workbooks and things that help focus on this too. And practice. And asking questions. Is this what you meant when you have a conversation? Don't be afraid to ask that. And these are ways to practice improving those kind of abstract reasoning skills, because they're often affected. And it's the same thing with pragmatics too. When somebody's joking, or don't be afraid to ask. It's important, and especially with intimates and family and friends, stuff like that. Don't be afraid to ask, hey, is this what you mean? Practicing, again, is the only way to improve it. There are a variety of speech path and cognitive therapy techniques that speech pathologists and cognitive therapists can use to help. But it's important that you practice both out in real life and with people that you trust and with friends, as well as to practice with therapists, and they can help you with this kind of thing, as well as perhaps to watch a movie or something with a more complicated plot and just take notes and see if it lines up with maybe something a critic said or something like that. Because trying to practice is really the best way to work on this over time and to improve that kind of thinking. And a lot of people have problems with the just reasoning, the abstract kind of verbal abstractions. That symptom may not even be acknowledged by neuropsychologists because this is a fairly new area of research. And it's something that really can be very disabling because it reflects a lack of mental flexibility sometimes. And you may literally read what you see and miss what's between the lines, and an article or news or something that someone's trying to convey. It's exactly the opposite of what they're trying to say. You may read this article and think, oh, that person's not a very good person, or that whatever is not good, when actually they're trying to do good. Or just the opposite, because you're missing what's at the heart of it, what's at the very center. And so it is important that to work on those kind of things, because oftentimes if you have problems with both linguistic processing for pragmatics as well as problems with understanding the gist, the main idea, because of all the information pouring in and not having outlined what is important, the heart of what is being communicated is totally missed. And for complex ideas, what is trying to be conveyed is completely missed. And that can lead us to be in some very difficult and embarrassing situations. So practice, practice, practice. Okay, thank you very much, and hope you found this helpful. And please click like and subscribe on the channel. And I also wanted to say this is dedicated to a friend of mine, Lisa, who suggested this kind of topic. And so, it's like, if you have anything to suggest, please do. Below in the comments section, please comment if you found this helpful, any ideas. And see you later.